By now you should have your Arduino Uno board working correctly with the Blink Sketch. If you've had problems trying to get it work, you can check that the USB cable is securely connected and that the power light is on. If you still can't get things working, you can check out the troubleshooting section in the installation guide on the Arduino site. But hopefully you've had no trouble with that, and we can now take a closer look at the Blink Sketch and the Arduino development environment. So when you open up the environment, this is the window that you see. It's called the editor window. This section here is where you will enter your sketch code. So in the Arduino world, what is known as a program elsewhere is known as a sketch. And below that window you have a message area, and then another area underneath that which demonstrates the results of whatever the operation is that you're performing. The buttons along the top, the ones that you really need to be concerned about, are the upload button, so that uploads your sketch to your Arduino board, and then you also have your standard open and save windows. We'll look at some of the other features of the development environment a little bit later in the course. For now, we can come back up to the File menu and open up the Blink example again. So let's have a look at how the Blink example works. The first part of the sketch, which is shown in grey, is the comment section, and that just describes what the sketch will do. It's a good habit to, when you create a sketch, to have something at the beginning to say, hey, this is what this sketch does, so that when you come back to it a week later, you can remember. So the first part of the sketch, after the comment section, defines the value of an LED. So on your Arduino board, each pin, these connectors are known as pins. Each of these connectors has a particular number associated with it, and you can see that on the board in the white print here. And there's something special about pin 13, is that it is connected to this LED light. So rather than repeating the number 13 everywhere in our sketch when we want to refer to this particular pin, we set up a variable called LED and give it the value 13, and then we can use that in the rest of the sketch. So again, it's a good habit to get into, rather than repeating a number that you're using lots of times, to set it to a value at the beginning of your sketch. Now, you'll notice that in every Arduino sketch there's two functions that are in all sketches. This is the setup function and the loop function. The setup function gets run the first time that you connect power, and then the loop function gets run repeatedly until you disconnect the power or the world ends. And in the setup function, you do all the operations that you need to do once. So you might need to say set a value to a variable to a particular value, or in this case you need to be able to tell the Arduino environment that you're going to be using the LED connected to pin 13. So the way that we do that is we set the mode at which this particular pin will operate. And in this case, we want it to operate as an output. So that means that we're going to control the value. We're going to turn it on or we're going to turn it off. And so you need to make sure that each time you connect something to your Arduino, that in your sketch, you've set the pin mode for the pin that it's connected to. And then in our loop function, this is the code that gets repeated over and over again. The first thing that we do is turn the LED on. And so we do this by calling the digital write function. So this just sets the value of the pin to either on or off, or high or low. So in this case, we're setting it to high, so that is the same as turning it on. And so when we do that, the light will turn on. And then, again, it's good to get into the habit of reminding yourself what each of these steps is doing. So then the next step is delaying. So this means that we turn the light on, and then we want to wait for a wee while before we turn it off, or we wouldn't actually see anything. So the value that you supply to the delay function is in milliseconds. So there's 1,000 milliseconds in a second, so we want to make it wait for a second. So we say delay and then 1,000. Make sure that when you're calling these functions that you include the brackets and then at the end of a line a semicolon. That just lets the Arduino environment know that you've finished with that particular line. So then once we've waited for a second, we then want to turn our LED light off again. And so we use digital write to the same pin and then make it low, which is telling it to turn it off. Then the important last line is that we want to wait again for a second. If we didn't have this line in here, then the light would turn on and then turn off and then immediately turn on again, and so you wouldn't actually see the light off. So if your code isn't working as you are expecting it to, make sure that you're remembering to include any delay that you need at the end of the loop. So in this case, we're going to wait again for a second, and then the loop will exit, and then it'll go right back to here and go through all of these steps again. And we can see that on our board now. The light is on, and then it turns off, and then it turns on again. So now you're going to modify a sketch for the first time. So think about how you would like to change the sketch to operate. You might want to make it blink faster or slower. So in this case, we're going to look at making it blink faster. So think of a fraction of a second that you might like the light to be on for. I'm going to choose 200 milliseconds. So we change the value from 1,000 to 200. And then we can also change this value here as well, so it will be off for the same amount of time. Now at this stage you can choose to upload the new sketch, so just click upload. You'll get another message about it compiling the sketch, and then again on your Arduino you'll see the TX and RX lights blink, and then the LED is now blinking a lot faster. Congratulations, you've just modified your first sketch. Now in case you're wondering, you don't have to keep the values the same for the time that the light is on or the time that the light is off. So we can actually say, okay, we want to have our light on for 3 seconds or 3,000 milliseconds, and then we just want it off briefly. So that means the light will stay on and then briefly blink off and then turn back on again. So we can test that, upload it, and it's uploaded, and now the light is on, and then it will briefly blink off, and then it will be turning on again. And that's how easy it is to get started with an Arduino sketch. Now, so you don't lose all your hard work, you also want to save your sketch. So we can choose Save from the menu. Now, because it's an example sketch, it'll say you can't actually save this because we want to keep it so that if you open it up again, it'll be the same as you started with. So we need to specify somewhere else to save it. So let's put it on that good old place of the desktop, and then we can say, call it something like My Blink. And then hit Save. Now you'll notice that we can look now on the desktop and see that there's a folder created called My Blink, and inside the folder is the actual file that contains our sketch. So if once we start to add more sophisticated code to our sketch, we can have multiple files, and so that's why the Arduino environment saves it in a folder first. And the file has a .ini extension, so that means that if we close this, then we can double click on it and it will open up in the development environment again. So now we're going to take a look at some of the projects that other people have done with the Arduino and similar technologies.